2024. Time 7:53. Everything at Istanbul Airport appears routine. Air traffic is as busy and well regulated as usual. The wind is calm and blowing from the north. There's nothing out of the ordinary until an announcement changes everything 1 minute later. Time 7:54. A cargo plane approaching İGA Istanbul Airport declares an emergency to the air traffic control tower.
Right now we're indicating that our nose gear is not down.
For reasons unknown, the aircraft's front landing gear is failing to deploy. İGA Istanbul Airport is now facing a critical test. The cargo plane, which departed from Paris-Charles de Gaulle Airport, is descending to land at İGA Istanbul Airport. However, there's a serious problem. The issue lies with the aircraft's nose landing gear. The pilots, having declared an emergency, request the tower to visually inspect the plane.
Yeah, we're going to want to try to fly back over the airport and have the control tower take a look at our landing gear. We right now are indicating that our nose gear is not down.
Uçağın ön iniş takımları.
We received word that the front landing gear was malfunctioning, that it wouldn't deploy, and that the aircraft would perform a low pass, flying low near the tower and over the runway, so that we could visually assess the issue, with ground support vehicles providing additional confirmation.
Kontrol edileceğini bilgisini aldık.
It was our morning shift when the incident unfolded. As soon as the captain declared that the nose gear hadn't deployed, we quickly moved to runway 34 left. When the aircraft made another low approach to runway 34 left, we visually confirmed the nose gear was indeed closed and relayed this information to the tower.
The problem with the nose landing gear was verified by the Air Traffic Control Tower, Airside Operations, and ARFF teams. All personnel were on high alert. Time is running against the clock. Istanbul Airport's operational teams were now facing the worst-case scenario, a potential belly landing. But this was extremely risky. If a controlled landing couldn't be achieved and emergency crews were delayed, a major disaster was inevitable. The ARFF teams and Airside Operations Unit began making necessary plans to minimize the risk during a possible belly landing. The mission was clear: to safely evacuate the aircraft's crew, eliminate any fire risk, and then carry out the rescue operation without damaging the aircraft. It was decided the aircraft would make a belly landing. The soft surface at the top of the runway would increase friction, allowing the plane to come to a safe stop as quickly as possible, while the ARFF teams would immediately intervene to prevent any fire risk caused by friction. A full emergency was declared at Istanbul Airport. All ARFF personnel took their positions. The operation began. By 7:55, just 1 minute after the pilots reported the situation, ARFF teams were already in place on the runway.
Acil durum olduğu ihbarı üzerine,
upon receiving the emergency report, all of our teams and stations were put on standby. From these, ARFF-2, located at runway 16, stood ready at predetermined waiting points, while ARFF-1 and ARFF-3 sent all necessary resources to support the station.
Gerekli olan bütün ünsürlerini o bölgeye yönlendirdi.
Time 8. An ambulance carrying medical personnel took its position on the runway. Time 8:11. The pilots informed the tower that there were secondary flammable materials on board the aircraft. The tower immediately relayed this to the ARFF teams. The situation had become even more critical. Time 8:16. The aircraft was on its final approach. All personnel stood ready, waiting for the aircraft to touch down. All possible scenarios had been accounted for. The cargo plane was nearing the runway. Everyone at Istanbul Airport held their breath, waiting for the landing. Time, 8:17. The cargo plane touched down on the runway. It began skidding on its nose for exactly 371 meters. Friction caused flames to appear on the underside of the plane. The ARFF teams, positioned nearby, began their intervention without delay. Thanks to the quick response, the ARFF teams successfully prevented the risk of a major fire.
After the landing, we entered the site with all the teams. Following the pilot's skillful landing, our team's intervention was precise and well executed.
The pilots were swiftly evacuated from the aircraft. They were in good condition. The ARFF teams remained by the aircraft, vigilant against any remaining risks.
The crash investigation team was now awaited. Once the plane was lifted, the runway would be cleared for flights again. No damage was found on the runway. Therefore, as soon as the aircraft was removed, the runway would be ready for flight operations once more. Our biggest advantage was the immediate activation of our backup runway, 3-4 right, in the event of an accident. This gave us a significant edge. We managed to carry out the operation smoothly, without any delays or traffic cancellations.
After the necessary inspections, the lifting operation began at 15:35. The aircraft needed to be towed to the hangar as quickly as possible so the runway could be reopened to air traffic. Moving an aircraft in this condition is extremely challenging and poses many risks.
The immobile aircraft needed to be lifted and taken to the maintenance center without causing any further damage, and the runway needed to be reopened promptly. We started these efforts in accordance with the procedures and principles of the International Civil Aviation Organization and the Directorate General of Civil Aviation for recovering immobile aircraft. During the lifting process, we identified several obstacles under the aircraft. The attachment points for the crane slings were in contact with the ground. We decided that slightly raising the aircraft's nose with airbags and placing the slings underneath would lead to a more successful lifting process. As the evening approached, the wind at the airport started picking up. There was a risk the plane could sway, tip over, or cause injury to personnel during the lift. Therefore, we secured the plane to the ground from all sides with ropes, a method known as tethering. Finally, we moved the aircraft's fuselage onto a trailer. The aircraft, which we connected to the pushback vehicle, was carefully and attentively towed on a trailer to parking position 405 within 30 minutes. Our rehearsals at the airport gave us confidence, and ultimately, we achieved a successful outcome. It was a source of pride to conclude such a challenging operation without anyone getting hurt.
Thanks to its expert teams and advanced technology, İGA Istanbul Airport successfully passed this test with flying colors.